You're listening to the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM. Good morning, everybody, and how are we all this week? Hope you've all had a good week. Well, been an eventful morning. I will let you know as morning unfolds. I do have Chewie with me back in the studio, so you'll either hear her snoring or keeping guard. This is a two-woman show. Some of us need our dogs with us more than we need our coffee, so there we go. So this week I wanted to talk about last week we were going on was the second part in the discussion on Into the Manosphere, so that's all wrapped up. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper because we were covering about journalism, we were talking about research, critical analysis and critical thinking. And this week we're going to be continuing the theme about being in that middle of, actually having all of this information, but not quite knowing what to do with it. Do you write a book about it? Do you write an article about it? Do you go on Facebook and have a bit of a rant? Do you create a podcast? Because these are all the creative outlets that we can use, because when we keep everything inside, eventually it all comes up and it's like a pressure cooker, right? But when we're in the process of writing a book, and this is the literary hour, and I do geek out and I do try and make it so that it is applicable to everybody, and I put a lot of time and effort when I come into the show, plan out the songs, I look at what's going on in the news. I don't like to be in the news, and the fact that I don't like to be submerged in it, because mainly it is just bad news. That's what sells. People are addicted to bad news. People are addicted to drama because they're not purging it out of their system. They're not doing the breath work. They're not doing the exercise. They're not people just love drama, don't they? Oh my God, it's like they can't live life without it. And so one of the things that I encourage a lot of people to do is journal. There are so many different ways you can journal. Some people do the gratitude journal at the end of the evening. I do that. Whether I am just purging out, I'm just overwhelmed with everything, all the goodness that's happening in the world, because I do look for the good. And there's something that when I was studying theology that really came present to me, that when we look for the good, we see the good. But when we look for the bad, we'll always see the bad. Now, those of you who have studied any of the holy texts will recognize that from your own book, even though it's written in many different ways in all of them. And when we are in the process of, we've got all of this information, but we're not thinking critically, we're not quite sure how this lands with us. We're in this state of flux. We're not quite sure where we're going or what we're going to be doing. And this isn't just about, unloading everything that we've absorbed, whether that's information or other people's energies or trauma or whatever it is. It's about life as well. If you don't know who you are, and you haven't spent the time getting to know yourself and what it is that you want out of life, then you kind of just get lost in this middle. It's like you're in no man's land. You know what you like doing. You kind of want to do that, but you're not quite sure. What if someone makes fun of you? Who cares? Seriously. If you think it's that important, everyone's talking about you, then maybe you've got another different kind of an issue, beginning with an N. Narcissism, for those of you who like the crossword clue, answers being given to you. And again, it's the same thing whenever you're writing a book, or you're about to write an article, or design a show, or you're designing a garden maybe, because there are obviously different ways of expressing yourself. And it's about making that plan, isn't it? It's about knowing, what is it that I want my day to look like? What is it that I want my week to look like? It's about writing all of this down. And sometimes it can be hard because you're so overwhelmed, because there's so much to do. I was talking with Donna about, how we put this show together, and, everything that she has to do to make sure all the equipment is working, make sure there's enough people here to make sure that you've always got something to listen to when you tune in, making sure that we've got interesting content, making sure the studio continues. I always ask, if you're looking to support the show, and you really do enjoy what you're hearing, and there's someone that resonates with you, contact us. Let us know how much, that you'd want to support the show. Maybe get an ad on there. You've heard some of our ads. They go out every half an hour. But again, unless you know what it is that you want to achieve, we want to keep this radio station going. Obviously we do. That's why we're all here. We love giving back. Some of us love the sound of our own voice more than others, but that's okay. That happens on every radio station, in every walk of life, in every career. Some people say, I like the sound of my voice. Not when I hear it back, I don't. Sometimes I'm like, oh dear. Sometimes I hear my country bumpkin accent come out, because when I speak like this, when I go home, some people are like, oh my God, what happened to Dawn? But I used to speak like that all the time. But I knew that if I wanted to get ahead in life, and I wanted to go and do the things and achieve the things I wanted to do, I had to tone down my country bumpkin accent. So there we go. We sometimes have to do it. Now, I'm not going to do a Gerald, although I absolutely love Gerald off Clarkson's farm. Oh my Lord. I was like, oh my God, is it really bad that I can understand him? Like that's, I know quite a few Geralds from where I grew up, but I also used to live in Oxfordshire, so that was quite amusing for me. Honestly, I had to text my mum, and we don't speak very often, but I text my mum like, you have to go watch this. But there we go. They all knew what they were doing. Gerald knew what he was doing, even if no one understood him. And that's the thing. Some people would make fun of him. Some people would just adore him. And he just got on with it. He didn't really care. He became a nation's favourite, nation's sweetheart. So big up the Geralds of the world. But going back to the writing, when you're in it, and whether you're planning out what it is your career move is going to be next, or whether you're planning out your next book, which I have been doing. I've spent last week looking at the dates, looking at the books that are in the pipeline, looking at the books I'm going to be writing, because I'm actually in the process of starting a new second edition. So I'm revisiting my book, Crossing the Line, and instead of it just being one book, it's going to become two books. So we're going to be calling it the Scotland Saga. And those of you who have been in my space for quite a while, you'll know about the Scotland Saga. Those of you who don't, watch this space. The book is coming. But again, so many people, they put a book out there and then they just leave it. It's like having a baby and abandoning it at the local supermarket. Not a nice thing to do. Your books need nurturing. Your careers need nurturing. Your life needs nurturing. You need nurturing. Now, you'll have figured out by now that I do encourage everybody to take a meeting with themselves. Spend time with themselves, getting to know who they truly are. Now, Friday mornings, getting up and being here, for 8 o'clock, I like to be here. I like to get my coffee. Well, I bring that with me. No offence, but I'm a bit of a coffee snob, and the coffee that they have here in the kitchen, it's not a Dawn coffee. So if you are a coffee producer, or you sell coffee, then Radio Cardiff would love to drink your coffee. Do let us know if you'd like to sponsor the show. Good coffee, Dawn approved coffee is essential. Do not be bringing me any of that instant stuff, because that's not coffee. That's stuff that's been swept up off the floor. Let's just be honest. Let's really be honest, because there's one thing I like, and it's honesty. But we've had so again, going back to the planning of your life and planning of the coming into the show every day on a Friday. I don't normally do anything. I don't like to leave the house or start work until about 10 a.m. because I like to just journal. I like to look at what it is that I'm feeling. What did I wake up and need to purge? And I know that, many of us are just getting up, walking the dog, taking the kids to school, getting into the rush hour, and we never really give ourselves that time. Those people that say, the 5 a.m. club, the only time I'm awake at 5 a.m. was when I used to go out raving, and I was actually still raving, and I was on the dance floor having it with the techno, or when I'm out on a boat and I'm on night watch. So 5 a.m. in the morning, the only time I'm up at 5 a.m. in the morning now is if Chewy needs to go to the bathroom, and then it's like back to bed. My name may be Dawn, but I'm more of a night owl. I am no lark. But again, it's about knowing what your natural rhythm is. It's about knowing, what it is that makes you tick. What is it that you want to express in the way that you want to express it? It might be that you have this caring nature and you want to take care of people in a hospital. Not my jam. I value the nurses and the doctors and nurses that are out there and the consultants. Yeah, kudos to you all. Like I've said before, I am the mother that gave her 2 boys a tissue and said, wipe your own nose. I am not going anywhere near that. No, thank you. And they soon learnt. That's one of the reasons my kids didn't actually go to school needing to be potty trained. But there we go. That's a different show for a different time. But again, knowing who you are, knowing what it is that you want to do, this is important. We've all heard that we only get one life, but so many people are just being blown around like the wind. Now that can come from many, many different reasons. It could be from trauma. It could be from they didn't have parental guidance. It does probably they were made fun of at school. They weren't given the correct. They've got to a point in their life where they've learnt one thing and now they're like, yeah, I kind of don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something different. And I've been there. I always knew I wanted to run my own business. I always knew I wanted to get paid to read and write. That was it. I also knew I wanted to be a mum. And everything had to fit around my life as a mum. Hence why I went into business. Because I knew that if I worked for someone else, I could not be the mum or the person that I wanted to be. And so I wrote it down. I made a list of everything that I wanted to achieve, everywhere that I wanted to go, all the experiences I wanted to have in life. Some of them I've not achieved yet. Some of them, had to be put on hold. But unless we're actually making that plan, unless we're taking a meeting with ourselves first thing in the morning, we're just going to keep being blown around in the wind. And this is what happens when an author doesn't actually make a plan for their book. That they start writing it. I've got this really great idea. I'm just going to do it. Tick, 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 tick. And there they are with, the fingers dancing across the keyboard, sounding like a cockroach, like having a techno party all to itself. And then they stop. They burn out. And then you're kind of like, whoa. What happened? Where did that mojo go? And I was looking, as I was preparing for today's show, I was looking at some of the things that are going on in the world. Now, April is Stress Awareness Month. And it's wanting people to be aware of the stresses of life. And one of those stresses of life, see, it all makes sense in the end, guys. One of those stresses in life is not knowing who you are. Until you know who you are, you cannot start to eliminate it. And I always say to my coaching clients, make a list of all the things you love and that you want to do. Make a list of all the things that you like. And you're okay to do them, but you'd really not. And then make a list of all the things you don't want to do, but you'll do them if you absolutely have to. And then make a list of all the things you absolutely hate. Because once you know that, you can go, okay, well, I can delegate all of that. I don't really want to do all of that. I can find someone to do that. Find out how much that's going to cost. Because everything has a cost to it. But we can see it as either a cost or an investment. And I like to see things. If somebody's taking a job off me that I absolutely hate, me paying them is an investment. Now, if that means while I'm building something, I have to go without something else, then I will do. That's just who I am. But some people are not willing to sacrifice 2-3 coffees with a friend every single day in the local coffee shop or a coffee on the way to work. They're not willing to do as I do and buy a flask and fill it up with fresh coffee or carry your own coffee bags, as my friend Neil found out the other day when I went to have a meeting with him. I got there and I had my own coffee bag. I just asked for some hot water. Even when I'm on the train, I take my own tea bags. I take my own coffee bags. I make it. No one's going to charge you for a glass of hot water. And this is one of the ways we get ahead. Okay? And I don't know what they're doing next door. I think they're moving furniture. But again, when the other thing that's going on this month, we had World Autism Day on the 2nd of April. There was a World Health Day on the 7th of April. And coming up on the 22nd of April was Earth Day. And it reminded me of a song of I played one of his songs last week, and I'm going to play another song of his this week, by Michael Jackson, absolute legend, and not the person the media portrayed him as, really, and not that I know. I mean, I'd never had a cup of tea with the guy, but there we go. But I'm going to play his song Earth Day, and I just want you to listen to some of the lyrics and actually really listen and tune into them, because a lot of what he's writing about in there is, if you apply them to yourself, give yourself the time, have a look around, just take a listen and, just be with the lyrics, and we'll see what you think afterwards. Oh, I do love that song. Now, as I said, I wanted you to think about the lyrics, because when I listen to that, and I think sunrise in your life is how it starts, the rain. Well, what about the sunrise, the rain and the things we were to gain? Where are you focusing on the sunshine in your life, the gratitude, for the ability that you've just woken up? How many people go to sleep and don't? Be grateful for, the fact that you walk past a stranger and there's a smile, or you walk, you meet Chewy. I mean, goodness gracious, whenever you meet Chewy, you just got to give her some tickle tacks. She just rolls over unless, now I have to raise this actually, and I'd completely forgotten about this, but this was something really bothered me the other day. I went to a gym, and I came out, and there were these 4 guys. One of them was really friendly, chatty, and then this other one, he wanted to tickle Chewy. He wanted to stroke her, and she kept walking away from him, and he kept following, and I was like, excuse me. And then he took her stick off her. Now, anyone who knows Chewy, they'll know that she loves her sticks, right? And he took her stick off it and threw it. Now, dude, she was walking away from you. Now, I went over the toxic masculinity, but that kind of thing, when someone is walking away from you, whether it is a dog or a person, that means they don't want to be in your energetic space. So can you pay attention, please, in the future? Rant over. But again, look at the things that are going on around you, because when we look at the things we are to gain, now I'm putting that out there. That man had a lesson there to gain, but he was so obsessed with what he wanted. Now that's a big red flag, because if he's doing that to a dog, where else in life is he doing that? Now, it's all well and good having a goal in life and going after it, but if we are abusing people along the way and we're not paying attention to other people, then we've got issues. We've got some self-awareness issues that we need to look at. So again, look at what we're all to gain, and look at what your goals are, and make sure that they're in alignment. Now, we're coming up to the news on the hour, and then we've got the ads, and then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be coming back to the Words of Earth song. I'm going to be looking at that, and then looking at what the next stages are, when we're actually in that process of looking at what we want to achieve. So we were understanding the Earth song lyrics, and there was a part in there about dreaming, like we have these dreams and we want to go after them. We have a dream for the earth and we have a dream for the world, but a lot of people forget to dream. They get so busy, or they drink too much, or they're just in a part of life where they've forgotten how to dream. And I remember when I was going through a really, really tough time in my life, and I was just like, I just didn't dream, and I was like, this is just weird. And I had to look at what had changed in my life that had stopped me from dreaming. And what was it that was in my subconscious that was not allowing me to become the very best version of self? Because when we stop dreaming, we've almost shut down our consciousness. Now, I'm not going to go into the science of it. There are people like Eckhart Tolle, there's Dr. Joe Dispenza, there's Dr. John Martini, there's all of those people that will actually go into a bit more detail about it for you. If you haven't, Chewy, if you haven't got into any of their books yet, then please do so, because they are absolutely brilliant. But I mean, I used to be that child that used to get told off for daydreaming. I think I'm not daydreaming. I'm just connecting all the dots of everything that you're saying in this class, and that, you know, whether it was in, you know, the science lessons with Mrs. Richards, where we used to do like earth science. Or natural sciences, I think they were called. And then I'd go into Mr. Badley's class, and it would be chemistry. Now, you don't want me doing chemistry. I set the science lab on fire when I was at school. I am not the person that you want in a chemistry class session, or wherever there are, like, you know, that's not me. I used to think that these mixing decks were not me. I mean, I look at all the buttons, and I come in and I really hope that everything is working, because, like, there's buttons and leads and slidey things and twisty knobby things. These are the very technical terms, everybody, because I like to be technical. And I also like to take myself not too seriously, as you can gather. But again, when we daydream, when we allow ourselves to dream, and we take that time for ourselves, we get really present to who we are. Now, I was journaling this week, and I was like, oh my God, I wrote things down that I was like, well, where'd that come from? That's just come out of left field. Wasn't expecting that. But then I realised it was an expansion on what I had already written down. And when I actually looked at my goals and what it is that I want to achieve moving forward, and how I want the future to go, there were 3 prongs to the dream that I hadn't actually put together. And there were 3 levels of it. And it allowed me to look at how I'm going to fund it, how I'm going to make it all happen, you know, and how I'm going to be calling in my collaborators, my allies, the partnership deals. But unless I had actually taken that time to be with myself, and I'd actually taken that time to do the journaling, that wouldn't have come up. I wouldn't have been able to see that clearly. So this is why I'm so positive about this process, because it really does help me get clarity, and it helps everybody I know that does this get clarity on who they are, what they want in their life, who they want in their life is another big thing. Because I had an experience recently where I had been friendly with some people, and then they started to say certain things and red flags, and we soon had a string of bunting of red flags, and I've kind of gone, you know what, I'm done. I am so done. I don't need to be nice to you. I don't even need to spend time talking to you, but I do, because I'm a nice person. But sometimes you just have to protect your energy, and you just have to say enough is enough. You know, we're not even going to do this anymore. And that's okay to do that, because we have to protect who we are, what it is we want to do. And, you know, there's only so much time in a day that you can actually spend creating the life that you want. And we have to let that blood and the pain that Michael Jackson was speaking about in that Earth song, apply it to yourself. You know, what are the things that you can let go of? Who are the people that you can let go of? And remember, all of everybody else's drama, return to sender. It's not yours. It's like junk mail. And we all know that. I mean, those of you who are my age, you'll know, like, you know, junk mail used to be a massive thing. Now we get spammed, or we get the junk mail in our inboxes. Return to sender. It's not mine. Delete, block, remove. Not yours. Remove. Now, if any of this is making sense to you, or you want to let me know what you're thinking, or you've got some ideas, or if you're actually into journaling and you've had some of these really great epiphany moments, then please do text the show. It's 07354 770 837. That number again is 07354 770 837. Now, I know that some people will be giving you those numbers in very different ways, but I like to do 5, 3 and 3. It just makes my life easier in my brain, unless, of course, it's a very special number and there's lots of repetition. I do like this number because there is a 77 in there, and I was born in 77. Always a great year. But again, when we're going back to the Earth song, Michael actually asked him, when did you ever stop to notice? When did you ever stop to notice just how much you have achieved? When did you stop to notice just how much you have overcome? What evidence do you have in your life where you have shown up as the badass version of yourself, the person who has shown such courage and strength and overcome something that you thought you never would. It could be, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be massive. Now, for some people, like for my example, me coming here and sitting in front of this mixing desk, that's a big thing for me. Now, I have friends who were techno DJs in the past, and there's one of them, Simon, who used to go by the name of Scorpio. I remember going down to his in Torquay and walking into his recording studio. He goes, Dawn, do not touch anything. For him to see me here now with these mixing decks, I don't know whether he'd be having heart palpitations or whether he'd be so proud of me. I'm going to go with the latter. I'm probably thinking he'd have both. But there we go. We all grow and we all learn. But I want you to take a moment and actually sit back and go, I'm going to stop and notice who I am. I'm going to stop and notice what I have achieved. And if you can't think of it, just go back. What have you achieved since this year? What did you achieve in each month last year? It could be that you went out for dinner by yourself. Now, that's a big thing for a lot of people. It could be that, you know what, you got up out of bed and you stayed out of bed, like it was for me in January last year. Last year was a massive year for me. In the January, it's like get out of bed and stay out of bed. It didn't matter if I did anything else. It was just get out of bed and stay out of bed. By February, it was get out of bed, stay out of bed, and just attend a Zoom. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was my goal. But do you know, we're all coming at these things from very different spaces. Here I am in what month we're in? April, aren't we? And I'm sitting there and I'm planning out my next book, the second edition of Crossing the Line, as I mentioned earlier. Now, this is not going to be easy because this was quite a traumatic time in my life, and one of the reasons why I'm coming back to write the second edition of this book is because there's been a lot more clarity and distance travelled. When I first wrote that book, it was like it was just purging, and although the book did very, very well, I mean, it came number 3 on Goodreads in parenting. It came number 3 in the top 3. It came in the top 3 for parenting and women of ambitious women. I was blown away by that because I was like, holy moly, I was not really, I wasn't savvy on the marketing of my books back then. It was just write the book. Since that book came out, I've had so many readers message me, asking me questions about this, different parts of the book. My writing has improved, my awareness has improved, but also certain things in my life have still come up since the events of the Scotland saga, as we call it. And so one of the things I'm doing is I've gone, okay, I need to address this. I'm still getting readers coming to me and going, well, I've got this question. So I'm now answering all of the questions. Now I'm going to be doing, you can follow the journey. I'm going to be doing it on, the Writing a Second Edition series on the old Instagram and YouTube and all of that jazz. And I'm going to have my VA helping me do it because, as you can probably tell, technology is my best friend. It's not really so much, but when we're writing a second edition, we've given ourselves that time and that space to have a distance from whatever it was that we went through. And with the extra information that has either come out in the news about a certain situation or different research or different awareness or the different personal events or curveballs that come up in our life as a result of not having healed the stuff from the past. And this is why I say look at the blood and the pain, things that we need to let go of, things that we can return to sender. Stop to notice what's going on in your body. Stop to notice where there's any resistance or there's any fear or any pain showing up, because a lot of people talk about having a disease, but they forget to break that word down. Disease is a dis-ease in the body, and a lot of that comes from unresolved issues. Now, it might be that you're not moving yourself well enough, you're not eating well enough, you're not cleaning your home, or you're not, focusing on yourself, you're not paying attention to yourself. So many people are paying attention to everybody else on YouTube or on everybody else on Instagram, or comparing their life on the TikTokies, and or whatever it's called, and the Snapchats, and I mean, God, there's so many platforms that some people are on them all, and I'm like, how on earth do you keep up with that? Me, I'm more of a LinkedIn person. That's where I do my business. So if you're on LinkedIn, look for me. It's Dawn Bates, FRSA, because I'm a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, and I absolutely love it. And a big shout out to Yaz Crawford and Jeremy Hugh. Fabulous. I missed the dinner last night, and I know that Jeremy, I call him Jeremy Hugh, FRSA on my phone. I was going to put fabulous in there, but I didn't. Probably should, but we normally get together for a dinner, but I wasn't feeling that great again last night, because one thing I learned about being sick, you need practice at being sick, right? I mean, I don't want to be practicing being sick because I don't want dis-ease in my body, because I do my very best to get rid of it. But one of the things I realised was that somebody who's always active, somebody who doesn't like being lazy or just sitting about doing nothing, I realised that as soon as the congestion and the sneezing went, I was like, right, okay, I'm ready now. I'm back to normal. Oh, no, I wasn't. Got sat back down on my backside, and I was like, okay, you're still not well, Dawn. This flu that's going around, if you've got it, blessings to you. I hope that you get well very soon, because that for something to stop me from reading, that's got to be bad, because I read everything, honestly. I try not to read some of the horrible literature and the poor literature. But again, going back to Crossing the Line, one of the reasons why I'm rewriting that book is because my writing has improved, my awareness of the publishing world and the literature. I'm constantly investing in my education, and I did a critical reading and a literary theory course. Now, you can do these 10-week courses with organisations like Oxford University, the continuing education. They do these 10-week courses regularly on repeat. So you're only paying a few £100s. You can get funding for this, so you can get actually 50% of it funded. There are grants available to you, so there's no excuse not to be able to educate yourself and move forward with your goals. So when the more learning I do, the more books I read, the more I write, the better at it I get. The more I learn from other people, and it's like, okay, now I need to go back and rewrite that book. I need to take some things out and I need to put more things in. And we're splitting it into 2 books. So then it's easier, because one of the things that I also feedback was I really wanted to read the book, but I was so put off by the size of it. So now what we're doing is we're putting it into 2 books so that it's actually less daunting for the readers. Again, listening to the feedback, because if we want to grow something and we want to achieve our goals, if we're not listening to feedback, then even if it's feedback from our own body or our own consciousness or our own fears, if we're not listening to that, then we're never going to grow. We're not going to, there's listening to it and there's becoming disheartened by it. Now, I could have gone on, well, they've got too many questions on, I just don't want to answer them. But it's about listening and go, okay, I'm going to address that. That person's just being, a bit of a moron, so we're not going to listen to them. And again, it's about filtering things out, isn't it? And again, that's what the editing process of Crossing the Line is going to be. Now, I think I've gone on quite a bit about the Michael Jackson song. There's one of the things that I'm doing, as I mentioned, I've been looking for a new gym because I've been doing a lot of workouts at home and going to the pool where I live, and I realised that I do need to take things up a notch. Now, because I had an injury, it was like, okay, I need to get a personal trainer. So I'm like, okay, I also realised I'm in a bit of a goldfish bowl. I need to step out of this goldfish bowl that I've been in since I've lived here in Cardiff, and I need to expand my reach and meet new people, because, sometimes you just outgrow the current people, the current community that you're in, or there are certain people that, I really, really like you, but I need to put you at a distance. And those of you who follow me on social media will have seen some of the things I post on my stories. If you're not following me on social media, well, what are you doing? It's Ms Dawn Bates International on Instagram. You will see the Radio Cardiff banner. Or the thing on the background. I'm so technical, folks. My friends call them Dawnisms. We like a bit of Dawnisms. And I know that if Rich is listening, because I know that he likes to listen, I know that he'll be giggling along to this. I'm going to be reading you a little bit of a book. In fact, actually, I'm going to read it now. I'm going to read you a bit of a book that I'm reading at the moment. It's called The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. Rich lent me this song. Rich lent me this book. And it is filled with lots of great nuggets. It's a bit of a slow read for me, because as the nuggets that you listen to, and this is the thing that I love about books, you can either read the ones that are just complete page turners that you just can't get enough of, and these are the ones where you put a face mask on, and hopefully it's a natural one, because you just want to read one more chapter and then one more chapter and then one more chapter, and by the time you've had your face mask on, you've had it on 4 times longer than you should have done. But this book by Rick Rubin, like I said, there's some really golden nuggets in it, and I wanted to read you one I'm going to read you 2 little bits that have just come up towards the end of the book. And here it is. No matter what route you take, if you complete the journey, you will reach the same destination. This destination is a work we feel energized to share, one we look back on and wonder in amazement how it could have come from us. And that's what I mean about, just taking a moment, taking those steps. When you're journaling, you come up with new ideas. Like I said about the journaling, like when something dropped into my space, I didn't know that was going to be a thing, but it absolutely made so much sense. Sometimes I look back at my life and I'm like, oh my God, how on earth did I do that? How did I get from a working class farming family? My parents didn't own the farm. My dad worked on the farm. My mum worked in a corner shop. So I don't come from wealth. I don't come from entrepreneurship. So where did I come from? I mean, I know I'm not the Miltmans, but I'm so different to everybody in my family. But I knew what I wanted and I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want to get to the end of my life and go, oh, I wish I'd have done that. Oh, it's all right for them. I didn't want to be that person. And I do see a lot of people, like people go on Reddit, and, they go on these platforms and they slate all these people that have done really, really well for themselves, and they don't like the business tactics or the high pressure sales. And yeah, some of them can be really, dear God, you sound so desperate. As they're pushing. But a lot of the world is changing, and you do have to pay for your education. You wouldn't walk into your local supermarket, help yourself to all the food, and then just walk out. If you want something to nourish your brain or your body, or you want new clothes, or you want a new car, or you want to go out, you'll pay for alcohol, you'll pay for all your takeaways, you pay for all of that. But if you're not willing to pay for your education, if you want to get ahead, you've got to do these things. But when it talks about what ultimately makes a great work, I can't talk. I'd say put my teeth in, but they're already in. What ultimately makes a work great is a sum total of the tiniest details. Now, some of us, like myself, we want to run before we can walk. And this is why, going back to Earth Song, it's like, stop to notice. Stop to notice how far you've come, what worked, what didn't work. And what's not working in your life, stop doing it. Do something different. Change direction. The next part that I wanted to read to you, which I thought was pretty cool. Here it is. Hang on. I'm trying to navigate this. Okay. If we like what we are creating, we don't have to know why. Sometimes the reasons are obvious, sometimes they're not, and they can change over time. It could be good for any of 1,000 different reasons. When we're making things we love, our mission is accomplished. That's nothing at all to figure out. Now, a lot of people, they're just doing a job just to put money on the table, and that's fine. But there are lots of things that you could be doing to put money on the table. And if you're in a job that you hate, then that's going to be affecting your energy levels and your positivity and your ability to make more money. And, you know, you've got to think about what it is that you absolutely love. Who are you? Take that meeting with yourself. Now, I want you to think about that, because we're coming up to the news, because it is on the hour and I can play the news now. Oh, I do make myself giggle. But here we go. Here is the news on the hour at 10 o'clock. You're listening to the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM. Cool, crikey, that chap that's going to run all the way back to Margate after running in a London Marathon, kudos. Whew, I don't know if I could do that, but if I trained for it, yeah, I could do. And again, going back to what I just read out of Rick Rubin's book, no matter what route you take, if you complete your journey, you will reach the same destination. And then we look back on and wonder in amazement on how it could have come from us. Now, that I hope that man's going to have a hot soak in the tub when he gets back, just to soak those muscles, because, God blimey, I would need it. And when I did the half marathon in Sheffield, I mean, it took me long. Part of that was because I actually stopped about halfway through when we got to Ponds Forge from Don Valley Stadium, and the proper runners, the ones who are like serious at what they do, they started running back past me, and I stopped and started cheering them on, and someone shouted from the sidelines, "You've got to keep running." I was like, oh yes, I am that person. I was so impressed by them as I came waddling along not long after I'd given birth and nearly died with my second child. But again, you know, if I was to do a half marathon now, or if I'd have done the half marathon, 6 months later, 8 months, a year later, I would have absolutely smashed it. So I was doing a 10k run twice a week in about 45 minutes, roughly, depending on whether there was inclines or not. But again, sometimes it's those small steps that make all the difference. And the things we want can change over time. Our bodies change. Good blimey, don't I know they change. Those of you ladies who are roughly my age, we all know about the potent power of menopause and the transformation that we're all going through. And it is a transformation. Honestly, absolutely loving it. But anyway, that was the creative act. Some nuggets from that book. I'm nearly finished. I'm on the next chapter now, which is called Freedom. And they're really quite short chapters, which is good. And then they've got some little, I'm not quite sure if they're poems. What we say, what we sing, what we paint, we get to choose. We have no responsibility to anything other than the art itself. The art is the final word. And then you've got lots of blank pages, which I'm not very happy about, being an environmentalist. And then you've got some line pages at the back, which, I do like to have reflection pages for my readers in my books as well. So it's not one of those books that you will read all the way through from start to finish, but it is a really good book. It's like you just dip into it, when you want some fatherly advice. I mean, because those of you who know Rick Rubin and you know what a legend he is, and everything that he's achieved, if he doesn't have any words of wisdom at this point, really, what has he been doing all his life? And if you're not willing to share it, then, are you being selfish? And I think this is one of the things why a lot of us love books, because we get to share in somebody else's creativity. We get to share their wisdom, or we get to share our own wisdom when we're writing. Now, one of the reasons why I wrote Crossing the Lines in the first place was because what happened to me and my children should not have happened. And I took on Scotland Police, and I won, obviously. Probably not obvious to some of you, but those of you who know me would know there was no way I was not going to win that case. And I did not want what happened to me and my boys to happen to anybody else. And I knew that being white and English, and somebody who had had a business, I was luckier than most. Now, if I'd have been a single mum of a lower social economic background, or from a different ethnicity, or I'd only just arrived in Britain, there's no way what happened to me, the outcome I got would have happened. It would have been a lot more severe. And I know that because I am that nerd, and I am relentless. I am that person who, I am not giving up. You get in my way, you hurt my kids, I'm coming for you. You don't mess. And, that is the mama fire, but I know that I have that resilience. I know that I have that strength, and I am going to take on whatever I need to take on to be able to make sure that my boys and I are safe, and to make sure that other people are not being taken advantage of. And so I put all of my learnings into Crossing the Line. I know I'm being a bit cryptic here, but that's because I want you to read the book, right? I want you to go buy the book and read it. Of course I do. I'd be daft if I didn't. What would be the point of writing a book if I didn't want people to go and buy it? And I do write my books all by myself. I do not pay anybody else to write them for me. I do not use AI. All of my books are human authored. Okay? So, just putting that out there. Anyone that's writing a book with AI, stop being so lazy. You are damaging your own brain. Now, you might say, well, I don't know what to write. You can use it to get ideas. You can use it, I wouldn't always use it for citations or referencing or research, i.e. on the thing. You can do. But if you're going to put those links in to your book or into an article, make sure, because at the end of it tells people where the sources come from. And one of the things I've stopped engaging with people on LinkedIn, and because I can so tell they've used AI, and I can't stand reading AI. It's just like, oh my God, it's the same voice, it's the same energy. And there's someone who I really love and respect, and I had to ask her the other day, why have you started using AI for your posts? This is a woman who works in energy. This is a woman who helps people overcome traumas, and she's using AI. And it just feels so disingenuous. And I asked her, I was like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing? And her response was, sometimes she's busy, sometimes, she's just not feeling it. Well, then don't write. You don't need to show up all the time. And, yes, consistency is, but what are we calling consistency? If we're just using, it just feels wrong. And people, they don't even read the post. They comment with AI as well. What if you'd have just spent time reading that post and had to think about it, and then just responded naturally? Show me who you are. I don't want to know who AI is. I want to know who you are. And so I've stopped engaging with so many people on LinkedIn because they're using AI. And it's like a beacon, like, oh, look at me, I'm using AI. No, I don't want to. I want to know who you are. I want you to show up as you. I want you to be real. I don't care whether you've got the full stops in the right place or I do. I really do. And some of my authors, I do joke with them. And I do say to them, you wouldn't know a comma and a full stop if it came up and bit you on the backside. And there are some of my clients who send me their manuscript who use the same speech verb over and over and over again. And I'm like, oh my God. And I highlight, when I'm doing a manuscript assessment, I highlight the speech verb over and over again in yellow. And sometimes they learn from this, sometimes they don't, sometimes they just choose to ignore it. And I know that I can only do so much. I'm reading a couple of client manuscripts at the moment, as well as writing my own. I just love reading and writing, and love it. But one of the things that we do have to do is we actually have to move. We have to move our body, and I There's a song that I really... I find whenever I hear it, it reminds me of a certain someone who helped me out in a really dark place in my life. I played this song at that point in time. So whenever I play this song, it always reminds me of him. And but when you're writing and you're doing a lot of reading or you're sat down a lot, it's always good to move your body. Now, it doesn't really matter what music you listen to. I mean, if you're running, you might want running tunes. If I'm running, which I don't do very often, not these days anyway, I can't listen to music. I really can't, because I start dancing, and I've fallen over far too many times trying to dance and run at the same time. It's not a pretty sight. It really isn't. And if you know what I'm talking about and you want to text in the show, 07354 770 837. But you need to move your body, because if you don't move your body, you're not shaking things up, you're not releasing energy, you get yourself into a different physiological state. You'll feel a lot more refreshed, you'll feel a lot more energized, and you'll also find that your writing is a lot better. It just is. There is. And so I'm going to play you a song now. It's by In Deep, and it's like a DJ Saved My Life, because no matter what music you're listening to, it's always good to have your favourite DJ playing. So here you go. You're listening to the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM. There we go. That was a DJ Saved My Life. Wasn't quite from a broken heart, but yeah, it kind of was. But again, different conversation for a different day. But when you listen to that song, it could be in the you're looking at it through a particular lens. Was it you that broke your own heart? Was it you that allowed your life to get to a certain part or a certain place, and you didn't change something? You knew you had to, but you didn't do anything about it. Was it somebody else that you allowed to break your heart because you didn't see the signs, you didn't walk away soon enough, or you didn't actually set boundaries and increase your standards? Was it a boss? Was it your child? Was it, a dog that died? It could be anything. And this is one of the things about literature that I love. And when you read things, people go, oh, I don't like reading. And it's like, well, what are you reading? What have you read? What lens did you read it through? Because it doesn't really matter. And this is the beautiful thing, again. I've said before that when you read a book, you're never going to read the same book as anybody else. You're not even reading the same book that the writer wrote, because they wrote it with a certain view. Like I wrote Crossing the Line to help other people learn from my experience, and also provide them with the information that they needed to be able to overcome what it was that me and my boys went through at the hands of Police Scotland. Islamophobia and racism and sexism all over it. Yeah, they messed with the wrong mama bear, I'm telling you. And the thing was, when I wrote that information, I was writing it through a certain lens. Now I'm coming back to it with a different lens, a more informed lens, a healthier lens. But other people are reading it and they might go, well, it's a really inspiring story, or they're reading it from a social justice point of view, or they might be reading it through a racial point of view. They might be reading it through a feminist lens. And every time that they read it through that lens, they're reading a different book. And this is what happens when you've got somebody... When I used to do a lot of teaching, which is something I do want to get back into, I want to help people learn how to enjoy literature, whether that's reading it or writing it. And that is where my goals are going, and like the future vision of DBI and the Author Academy is going. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing the DBI, the Literary Lounge, because this is going to be something that becomes an in-person. We've got the DBI Literary Lounge online. It's a community that we're building. And, so we're putting all of these little things in place, these steps, and we're growing it, and some things take time to grow. Now, we do want to rush into it a lot of the time. We want to make sure it's happening right here, right now. We've become too much of a credit card culture where we just, tap something in its hours. No, watch the seasons. watch how, you put seeds in the ground. And I mean, if you're anything like me, you've probably killed the seed before you've put it in the ground, if we're talking gardening. And it's like, well, it's not growing. Why is it not growing? Oh, I talk to plants because I think that helps. But there are some of us are a bit more green-fingered than the others. But again, these seeds that we planted, they need nurturing, they need the education, they need a different way of looking at things and tweaking things. And, if we get stuck writing, or we get stuck with a book that we're not enjoying, switch the lens. It's like when you're going skiing. If you don't like the blue lens, put the rose-coloured lens on, or the yellow one. I think there's even purple ones now. And and again, if you don't, like when you're going and trying on your sunnies, like whether you've got, I used to love these Ray-Bans. I can't believe I lost them. I was so cross when I lost them. I used to have like the blue mirrored lenses. I love my Ray-Bans. And Ray-Bans, if you're listening, thank you very much. I love you. But again, I couldn't deal with the pink ones. I love the blue. Some people love the yellow. Some people love the purple. Some people love the green ones. Me, blue. Reminds me of the ocean, of course. If you ever see anything from me on social media, you'll see a blue heart. Someone said, why have you got a cold heart? I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, we've got a blue heart. I'm like, it's not a cold heart. It's the ocean. Like, come on, seriously. Do you not know me? I'm a sailor. And again, looking at the way we see the ocean, for me, I love the ocean. Absolutely love her. She's strong, she's powerful, she's wild, she's free. She nurtures us. We cannot live without the ocean. Some people just see it as something really, really scary. When they see the waves, they're frightened, and I'm like, yes, let's go sailing. Hopefully we'll be sailing this week from the Cardiff Bay Yacht Club. So all those on White Night. We've got work to do, chaps. Alan, Neil, Alex. I don't know who else is joining us this week, but we've got work to do. We've got to beat the rest of them. They know who they are. White Night are coming for you guys with our chocolate hobnobs. They're already on the boat. But again, I love sailing, whether it is the coastal sailing, night sailing, racing, or just, sailing around the world, just on a bit of a jolly. And I love the night watches. And one of the things that we came up with recently when I was in a Creative Cardiff session with Taylor, she does these incredible sessions. And we were doing the journaling, and we were talking about, in the darkness. And I was like, well, let's reframe it, because there's always light in the middle of, at the end of the tunnel. And you could actually see the darkness when the sky is so dark at night and you're out on the ocean and the moon rise. Oh, when the moon is right above you and it's a clear night and the stars are out, and it's just you on the ocean, no one else. Everybody else on the boat is asleep. Oh, it's my favourite time. Absolutely my favourite time. And then about 4:30, 5 o'clock, when the flying fish come out, and then it's dolphin feeding time, because those fish are jumping out the water to avoid those dolphins. And I will let you know, I actually thought a flying fish, first time I saw them, for someone so intelligent, I was a bit dense, I tell you. I actually thought, that bird's gone under the water for a bit long. I wonder if it's all right. And then I saw another one go in the water, and I was like, what's going on? What's going on? Yeah, flying fish. They weren't birds, Dawn. Bit of a genetic mutation, perhaps, folks. Did they actually quite make it as a bird? Did they want to be both? Who knows? All we know is we have flying fish. And if you haven't seen a swordfish, oh my gosh, or a bluefin tuna, when you see those bad boys jumping out of the water, hello, they look amazing. Nearly caught one when we were coming around Cape Petrel in New Zealand. Goodness gracious, they are huge. And I've seen some people reel those in. Absolutely love sailing around the world. But again, I love the ocean. People that are petrified it. Now, little Chewy, I don't know what Black Weir Bridge did to her, but it's absolutely terrified her. She can't walk across a bridge now. So whenever we go for a walk, I have to be really careful. And one of the things I really, I mentioned about the guy and the stick and not paying attention. There's one thing, again, this is my lens, and I know for some I'm quite old-fashioned, but I was raised that when you're walking along the road, pedestrians are on the pavement, cyclists and cars are on the road. Cyclists have cycle lanes these days. Cyclists should not be on the pavement. That is why you have a cycle helmet. Get on the road. Because women, children and elderly and people with pushchairs, people in wheelchairs, we're the ones using the pavement, obviously, and gentlemen. We don't want cyclists on the pavement. That's not your place to be. You're on wheels. Get on the road. Unless, of course, it's a wheelchair, then obviously you're allowed on the pavement. This is Dawn's Law. Welcome to my world. But the thing that really gets me is when the other day I saw it. The woman was pushing the pushchair and the guy was on the inside. No, if you are a gentleman, you will walk on the outside of the pavement and you will allow the woman and the child or the dog on the inside. Now, Cheery does not like walking over bridges, as I've just mentioned. So she, trying to get her on the inside of me, it's not happening. She wants to be as far away from that bridge edge as possible. She can't see it. And so it really worries me that she wants to walk as close to the edge of the pavement as possible. And sometimes I think I'm just going to pick her up. I can't have her walking that close to the road, especially when people here in Cardiff don't seem to know what a zebra crossing is. I mean, please, zebra crossings are for you to stop and let the pedestrians cross. Again, I can't believe I'm giving the highway code out to people on Radio Cardiff, but it is what it is, and sometimes it's just needed to be said, really. But before I get off onto another rant, here are the ads for 10:30. And again, remember, if you do want to advertise on the show, do let us know. Contact Donna V or contact us through the website and we can look at getting you some really good exposure across the globe for tens of thousands of people. I mean, we're probably, if we added up everybody's socials and platforms that this radio show goes out to globally, you're talking well over 100,000. So if you want to advertise, then let us know. And to the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM. Right, there we go. There were the ads. And again, it's highway code. We just had it. I was talking about cyclists not being on the pavement. If you are riding a bike, I mean, those of you who, I'm 49 this year. We used to have to do the cycling proficiency test. What happened to that? Do they still do that? Now, I was one of those that, I really wanted to ride no-handed. I was just right, that's the goal. Started off with just one hand, wobbling a bit. And then I got me really confident with one hand. Again, it's like your goals in life. They could be as simple as learning to do no hands. It could be getting to a 5K run from couch to 5K. I think they do that thing now. You want to go on a road trip. We just heard the trip top up, but I'm like tunes. I mean, that would be one of the first things I'd make sure. Have I got my tunes ready? That would be the first thing. So obviously you do need to top up your fuel and your oil and your water and all that jazz. But, T for tunes. You've got to have a great road trip playlist. That would be the first thing. Rest points. Because, if you're going on a road trip, you need to know where the toilets are. Just for yourself. Because, there's got to be other things like that. I don't know what I'm going to come up with for I and P yet, but I did just thought P for playlists, but that's also covered in tunes anyway. But anyway, here we go. So we're coming up for the last half an hour, and like I've been talking about, what it is about where you're stuck, whether you're stuck in life, stuck in the middle of reading a book or an article, or whether you're wanting to write a book, or you're in the middle of a big game plan, to grow your business or accelerate your career. the middle can be really, really messy. It really can. And you get dark nights of the soul. You just like, I don't know where I'm going with this. And it comes down to being able to become informed. Now, the other thing about being informed is and also about being stuck in the middle. Some people are stuck in the middle of ignorance and information. And it's very easy. They're stuck in the middle of being ignorant and informed. And that's where information comes from. Now, there's so many people that try and have a debate with me about certain things. And the other day I had a guy trying to tell me how certain things work. And I thought, gosh, how much more mansplaining is he going to do? Is he actually going to ask me what I know, or is he just going to talk to me like an idiot? Is he going to talk to me like a child? Because we do get that a lot, don't we, ladies? And I know, and it feels different. Now, one of the ladies who comes sailing with us, Esther, her and I were talking about the difference in the male energies. And there are some that, when I lived out in the Arab world and in Latin America, the way in which men spoke to me was more paternal. It was more like that fatherly figure. They wanted to see, how can I help you? Did you want me to do this? And, did you know this? It was never a patronising way of doing it. I never felt patronised. But coming here back to Britain, I don't know whether it's because I noticed the subtleties of tone and intonation and the energy of the people here, but a lot of men do like to tell you. It's like when you get in an Uber. I've used Uber all over the world, and what makes me laugh is the men and the women mainly men who drive the Ubers. They say, "Oh, I can't pick you up there." Because I live in a gated community, and for various reasons, mainly because I want to feel safe, and I want to be able to walk Chewy around at night without walking down roads with no street lights, Cardiff Council. And like the Taff Trail, that really does need some street lights along it, because some of us want to go to certain gyms and we have to walk, or we're cycling, and it's pretty dangerous. We need to get the street lights sorted, and the overgrown hedges. And if you're going to do a job, those of you who cut the plants and the bushes and get rid of the debris, clean up after yourself. Those of you who have been to see Cardiff Central Station, you'll notice on the Penarth Road that a lot of the bushes have been cut down. But they didn't sweep up after themselves. They haven't cleared the rubbish. They've just left it. Like, really? If you're going to do a job, do it properly. Rant over. I'm having a bit of a rant today, aren't I? But anyway, people, I put here, like, being stuck in the middle. I'm reading my notes. A little bit of information goes a long way. And it's a difference between, people having these opinions and actually being factual about it. Now, again, when you're working with someone, find out what knowledge they have. Find out what their prior experiences was before you start teaching them or telling them how to do things and assuming that they know nothing. Now, if you're going to learn from someone, it's always good to come from an empty space of going, okay, I know nothing. Like when I started sailing with Alan and Neil and the guys on the White Knight crew, I'd never set foot on White Knight before. I didn't know how Alan and Neil rigged that boat. I'd been on a Beneteau before. I had sailed many thousands of miles on a Beneteau, but I'd never sailed with that crew. I'd never sailed with the way they rigged it or their equipment. And the terminology that a lot of them were using on the boat here in Britain, I hadn't used. So there are different terminologies in different parts of the world. Again, I think I mentioned before, the tweaker, for me, the work I do in my career and social issues, a tweaker is something very different to what they mean on a boat. Again, clarification and communication. So I said to Neil, just like, I know nothing, just give it to me like from straight. But he didn't assume I didn't know anything. He knew I had sailing experience. He just didn't know that I got over 20,000 deep blue miles. But again, I do my research. I did all of those miles to actually learn and actually make sure that whenever I do sail, I'm actually stepping onto a boat with a level of confidence. I would when I get my boat, and I will be getting my own boat, no one is going to be allowed on my boat that can't swim, because that's a liability. Because if we have a man overboard or we have to abandon ship, then there is no way you are going to bring down the rest of the crew. Because the moment you step on a boat, your life is in the hands of everybody else on there, and everybody else's life is in your hands. If one of them cannot swim, let it be because there's been an injury, or because there's been something serious like a heart attack or something. That would be like, otherwise you're just negligent. You're being dead weight that's not needed. That's my opinion, and lots of people have an opinion. But a lot of opinions that I have, or all my opinions, come from fact, and because I've had to learn, because I don't want to be wrong, because I've built a career where people actually trust me. Some people may not like what I have to say, but they respect what I have to say because they know I've done my research. And this is the thing, when you're choosing a new career, whether it is as a writer or as a, I don't know, a lawyer, or a doctor, heart surgeon, you really want to make sure you know your stuff. You don't want to be leaving a scalpel in somebody, or the swadding, or whatever it's, the wadding, the cotton wool ball things. I know what it is to be a writer, and I know what it is to be an editor, and also a publisher. I also know what it is to build businesses. Like, for example, Donna and the team putting this show together for everybody. It's not just about us rocking up here and, waffling on and selecting a few playlists. There's a lot that goes into this. You've got all the equipment to pay for. You've got a lot of the, you've got the cleaning of the studio. You've got any repairs that are happening. You've got the rent of this place, the utilities. And all of these things need to be covered. And people spend time putting these shows together for you to hopefully enjoy them, because, we've got all these listeners. I'm hoping you're enjoying what you're listening to. But again, researching for the shows really, really matters. Now, when we listen to the ads, they're aspirational. Some of them are information ads, like, you've got to check your tide times, and the live fear free ads. I really do like those, because they are raising a really, really important subject, and they're talking about financial abuse. Now, this starts a lot of the time. They're also talking about, very, very, what could be subtle signs of abuse that actually grow and manifest. Now, I wrote an article many years ago about how I saw financial abuse of a particular woman occurring, and we'd get together for coffee, and I would drop hints that I could see what she was going through. Thankfully, she listened, she tuned in, and she got out of it. But it can start with somebody telling you that, oh no, let me pay for it, let me do this, and then, you don't need to work, I'll do this. And then, like we mentioned in the manosphere, we become reliant on that income because we don't know how to make money ourselves. And even if we do make money, or we do receive money, we don't know how to hold on to it. If you've inherited a large sum of money, or you've inherited property, do you know how to keep it going, and do you know how to make it work for you? And these are some of the things that we do need to figure out. And because in life, we go through quite a few storms, and I'm going to play a song now. It's one of my I love the original, but I love this remix, and it's Riders on the Storm. I don't know if it's the remix that I wanted. No, I have chosen the right one. But this is coming up, and then we should be coming round to the end of the show on the 11th. But this is the Doors, Riders on the Storm. Right, there you go. That was Riders on the Storm. Not the mix I was hoping to play. But I've got to learn how to label things properly here on what do you call it, on the system. Again, very technical. What do you call it? Oh dear. So we've covered quite a bit today in today's show about being educated and, writing. And the reason why I like that tune, I mean, I like the remix. And I'll see if I can find it for next week. But when you're writing, sometimes it feels like, you've just got this storm in your head. And we call it mind mapping or brainstorming. And I was told that when my ex-husband had a seizure that I wasn't allowed to use the word brainstorming. And I'm like, why not? They're like, because it's offensive to people who've got epilepsy. And I was like, huh, really? I know a number of people who've got epilepsy and they use the word. Again, it can be a bit of a minefield when you're writing a book. And research is really, really important, as we all know. Not if you're using AI. Please don't use AI to write a book. Just, if you need help writing a book, just please contact me. Go to dawnbates.com, send me a message, and, I'll do my best to help you. And today I've covered, like how the process goes, and I mentioned about what it is to put this radio show together for everybody. And it's the same about putting a book together. Some people have said to me, oh, can you help me write my book? And I'm like, yeah, there is a price tag, folks. I cannot just live on goodwill and fresh air alone. And like I said, industries are changing. The world is changing. The way business is done is changing. Expecting somebody to publish your book for you for free, or pay you these days, it's getting, that's, the old models are changing. Now, one of the things I have in my business is question traditional systems. Because if you go to a traditional publisher and they pay you royalties, they're actually buying your copyright. They actually control it. And you are writing it for them to publish. Your name might be on there, but I do not buy people's copyright. And this is a conversation that I've had with a lot of authors recently who've come to me. They really want me to publish them, and I'm more than happy to do that if they're on brand. I will publish them under another label of their own, or I will recommend them to somebody else if they're completely off brand. But I need to do an assessment of their manuscript first. That takes time. I've got the hours that it takes to read the book, edit the book, come up with marketing ideas, look at different revenue streams for them, and actually then go, these are all the fees that are involved in putting a book together. You've got your typesetting, and that's after you've done your developmental edit, your line edit, your copy edit. You've looked at your cover design, and then how many versions of the cover design you've got your social media graphics, you've got your you've got to sort out all the metadata and all the thematic data. There's all of these things that go back into it. You've got to get your blurb written, you've got to get your author profile done. And there's one of the things that we've put together for everybody at my company. It's the we've called it the author essentials, because I just find that it's so necessary, because a lot of people, they don't know what they're doing. So if you go to dawnbates.com/the-author-essentials, you should be able to find it. And there are lots of different ideas. There's templates there for you, because it really can be a minefield, and people don't know. They just think, well, I'm just going to write a book, and then they write a book and they do a bit of Canva chaos. And if you're not a book cover designer and you don't know about imagery and fonts and colours, you really need to understand those, because you need to know what book covers work and how to make your book stand out. You need a really striking cover. Now, I have Jerry. I have we call him the legend that is Lamson. He does all of my book covers, and I don't know what I'd do without him. I've told him he's never allowed to retire, and so he knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for a very long time. And again, don't do it yourself. And there's a woman who I just did a 2-day seminar on something, and she's a multimillionaire. But the quality that she put out for her book made me so cross, because not only is she bragging about how many millions that she's got, but she's disrespected the readers of her book by not having it edited, not having it typeset, not even printing it on decent paper and putting a decent cover on it. And yet she's an international bestseller. But she's only an international bestseller because she's created a community, and this is what a lot of people are doing. They're creating these communities, or they've got a large, or they're selling it for 99 pence for 24 hours in a really obscure category, and that's going to, like I've said before, you only need 3 in that category, and you only need to sell 3 copies of your book in that category, and it'll be a bestseller. And that is what people are doing. They're manipulating the industry with all these little tactics, and they're putting international bestseller. When you're an international bestseller like myself, who's sold the numbers, done the work and done it properly, and your books are still selling, that counts for a lot for those of us who love literature. Now, I know we're all only human, and I know we've all got a lot that we're going on, and we've got so many demands on our time, on our resources, on our cash flow. So it's really important that if you are going to write a book, that you understand the amount of money that goes into putting it together. And if you are a reader, when you are buying the books at knockdown prices, or you've got a friend who's written a book and you want a copy of their book, don't ask them to do the work for free. You ask the big companies for freebies. If you wouldn't walk into Sainsbury's and ask them for freebies, don't ask your friend who's got their own business for freebies, because it's just not very good friendship levels. Now, I'm going to end on another tune. It's by Rag and Bone Man. It is Human. And then that should take us onto the hour where we have got the news. And but again, we're all human. Your stories matter. You matter. Your life matters. So spend some time with yourself, considering who you are, where your sunshine is, going back to Michael Jackson. Where is the sunshine in your life? Where is the rain? Return to sender all the things that are not resonating with you, and spend some time with yourself, reading, learning, and becoming the best version of self. And I will see you, well, I won't see you, I shall see lots of monitors and lots of turny knobs and slidey things next week. But I'll be tuning in, and if you're on social medias, do give me a follow and come say hello. But in the meantime, here is Rag and Bone Man with Human. Ciao for now.